In 1200 BCE, King Amphitryon of Tyrans led his mighty army against the kingdom of Argos, a realm situated near the Egyptian coast. On the battlefield, the two armies stood poised for bloodshed until Amphitryon stepped forward, issuing a bold challenge to King Galenus of Argos. Amphitryon proposed a single combat to settle their conflict, offering a brutal yet decisive alternative to war. The victor would claim not only the territory, but the wealth of the opposing kingdom. Galenus accepted, and the duel commenced with the fate of Argos hanging in the balance. Amphitryon's strength and skill proved overwhelming, and he emerged victorious, forcing the people of Argos to surrender to his rule. Yet, his triumph was marred by its purpose, celebrated with opulence in his palace, while his wife, Queen Alcmene, seethed with disapproval. In the shadow of her husband's greed and endless wars, Alcmene confronted Amphitryon, condemning his lust for power and gold. Driven by despair and the hope for peace, she sought solace in the temple, where she prayed fervently before the statue of Hera, pleading for divine intervention. Her prayers were answered by a radiant figure, claiming to be the goddess Hera herself. Hera promised Alcmene that peace would come to Greece, but only through a child conceived with Zeus. This child, destined to restore balance, would bear the name Hercules. After receiving the divine message, Alcmene returned to the palace and prepared herself to meet Zeus. That night, Zeus descended amidst a storm, lightning illuminating the skies. Though he did not reveal his true form, he approached Alcmene with a celestial presence that left no doubt of his divinity. Unbeknownst to them, Amphitryon arrived and saw a figure with Alcmene, though its form was obscured. Enraged, he ordered his men to search for any intruder, his jealousy ignited by what he could not fully perceive. Months later, Alcmene gave birth to a son, a result of her union with Zeus. Amphitryon named the child Alcides and warned Alcmene that he must never overshadow Iphicles, their biological son. Yet in secret, Alcmene named the boy Hercules, honoring his divine heritage. 2 decades passed, and Hercules grew into a strong and noble young man. One day, he rode through the countryside with his lover, Princess Hebe, the daughter of King Talus of Crete. They spent time by the river where Hebe gave Hercules a necklace, a gift from her mother. Their moment of bliss was interrupted when Iphicles arrived, summoning Hebe to a grand feast hosted by King Amphitryon and King Talus. Soldiers escorted Hebe back, while Hercules and Iphicles ventured into the forest to hunt. In the depths of the forest, a thunderous growl echoed. Hercules recognized it as the Nemean lion, a monstrous beast impervious to weapons. As the lion emerged, Hercules engaged it in fierce combat, ultimately breaking its neck with his sheer strength, while Iphicles stood by, offering no aid. Later, they returned to the palace where the feast was underway. Iphicles presented the lion's head and skin, falsely claiming the kill as his own. Though some believed his tale, others regarded him as weak and unworthy. During the celebration, Amphitryon made a shocking announcement. Hebe was to be betrothed to Iphicles. The declaration left Hercules and Hebe stunned, their love overshadowed by the king's ambitions. Hebe, refusing to accept her arranged marriage to Iphicles, fled into the forest. Desperate to protect her, Hercules followed and found her pleading for him to take her far away from the kingdom. Moved by her despair, Hercules agreed, and they began their escape. As they crossed a river, Hebe slipped into the rushing current. Without hesitation, Hercules leaped in to save her, pulling her to the riverbank. Their relief was short-lived, as royal soldiers soon captured them and returned them to the palace. At the palace, King Amphitryon ordered Captain Sotiris of the 4th Battalion to investigate attacks on the Greek-Egyptian border. Shortly after, Amphitryon summoned Hercules, commanding him to join Sotiris on the mission. Before his departure, Queen Alcmene revealed a life-altering truth. Hercules was not Amphitryon's son, but the child of Zeus, destined to bring peace to Greece. The next morning, Hercules and Sotiris set out with 80 soldiers. After traversing the desert, they arrived at the border and inspected a cave, only to discover the bodies of tyrant scouts who had been killed. Realizing they were in danger, Sotiris ordered a retreat, but it was too late. They were ambushed by an unknown group who slaughtered their men until only Sotiris and Hercules remained. The group's leader demanded to know Hercules' whereabouts, and Sotiris, in an attempt to protect him, claimed he was already dead. Hercules, however, boldly revealed his identity. In their exchange, it became clear that Amphitryon had orchestrated the ambush, using mercenaries to eliminate Hercules. The mercenaries, realizing their prize, captured Hercules and Sotiris, intending to sell them as laborers to a promoter. In the kingdom of Tyrans, a solemn funeral was held for Hercules, believed to have perished. Queen Alcmene and Hebe mourned deeply, their sorrow reflected by the kingdom's people who accepted the loss. Yet, the truth remained hidden. Hercules was still alive. Far from Tyrans, Hercules and Sotiris found themselves at a gladiatorial arena run by a promoter. Fighters battled for survival and freedom, and Hercules was thrust into the ring. Facing a massive opponent, he relied on his skill and strength, ultimately emerging victorious. Sotiris, seeing an opportunity, suggested they enter a prestigious tournament in Tiryns. He proposed that if they triumphed, the promoter would gain great wealth. To qualify, however, they first needed to defeat two infamous gladiators, Hellfest and Humbaba, and the promoter agreed to the challenge. Meanwhile, in Tiryns, tension grew as Queen Alcmene and King Amphitryon faced personal conflicts. Tragedy struck, and Queen Alcmene's death was announced, with the people being told she had succumbed to grief after the supposed death of her son, Hercules. The next day, Hercules and Sotiris fought Hellfest and Humbaba in a treacherous arena lined with spears below narrow stone paths. Hercules secured victory, but Sotiris was gravely injured. Concerned for his companion, Hercules convinced the promoter to release Sotiris. Hercules pledged to face the 6 gladiators in the upcoming tournament alone. The promoter, swayed by his resolve, allowed them to continue toward Tiryns, where Hercules prepared to confront his destiny. Upon reaching Tiryns, Sotiris secretly traveled to the kingdom of Teres to inform Chiron that Alcides, now known as Hercules, was still alive. Together with 2 Teres captains, Chiron and Sotiris went to the gladiator arena, where Hercules faced 6 skilled warriors. Despite the odds, Hercules fought fiercely, defeating his opponents one by one. The crowd erupted in admiration, chanting Hercules' name. After the battle, Chiron shared devastating news. Queen Alcmene had been murdered by King Amphitryon. Consumed by grief and anger, Hercules vowed to avenge his mother's death and overthrow the tyrant king. Hercules, Sotiris, and the 2 captains then visited a nearby village where they encountered Iphicles' men robbing the villagers. Hercules swiftly defeated the soldiers and sent them back to Tiryns with a warning. Upon their return, Iphicles revealed to Amphitryon that Hercules and Sotiris were alive and had allied with Teres soldiers. Furious, Amphitryon ordered reinforcements to prepare for war. In the forest, Hercules and Sotiris built a hidden boathouse to regroup. While there, Hercules encountered Hera, who prophesied his destiny: to unite the people, defeat Amphitryon, and live peacefully with Hebe. Meanwhile, Hebe, still grieving, believed Hercules to be dead and contemplated ending her life. Chiron intervened, assuring her that Hercules was alive. He took her to the river, where she saw Hercules bathing. Overwhelmed with joy, she realized Hercules was her beloved Alcides. Their reunion brought a brief respite from the turmoil surrounding them. Back in Tiryns, a mysterious army arrived to assist Amphitryon. He commanded them to hunt down Hercules and Sotiris. Meanwhile, Sotiris returned home only to find his family in peril. The unknown soldiers threatened his child, forcing Sotiris to choose between betraying Hercules or risking his child's life. Sotiris was coerced into leading Hercules into a trap, leaving Hercules captured, chained, and publicly humiliated before the people of Tiryns. Amphitryon denounced Sotiris and Chiron as traitors, while Iphicles carried out orders with cold determination. In his moment of despair, Hercules prayed to Zeus for strength to overcome his plight. Zeus answered by granting him extraordinary power. With renewed might, Hercules broke free from his chains and defeated the soldiers, forcing Amphitryon and Iphicles to retreat. That night, Hercules and Sotiris gathered their allies and marched toward Amphitryon's stronghold. Along the way, they faced opposition from loyalists and unknown forces, but some of Amphitryon's soldiers defected to Hercules' cause, turning the tide in their favor. When they reached the castle, Amphitryon's forces surrounded them, creating a fire barrier to block their advance. Hercules, empowered by his resolve, found the strength to press forward. As the battle raged, he overcame the opposition and breached the stronghold. Inside, Hercules faced Amphitryon in a final confrontation, determined to end the tyranny. Amphitryon fought fiercely, but Hercules' strength and resolve proved greater. In the end, Hercules brought an end to his reign, fulfilling the prophecy of peace. Hebe, who had been caught in the chaos, reunited with Hercules as the dust settled. In time, Hercules and Hebe began a new chapter together, bringing hope and unity to Greece. Their journey, marked by trials and triumph, laid the foundation for a lasting legacy.